Leader Kim Jong-un walks into parliament with confidence. State media claims he just won re-election by a landslide with 99.93% of the vote. In front of a packed house in Pyongyang, Kim has a defiant message for President Donald Trump. The United States is now resorting to acts of state-sponsored terrorism and aggression. The hostile forces wanted us to make a different choice, preaching a payment for our giving up of nuclear weapons. But the present situation clearly proves our nuclear possession is irreversible. Kim never names Iran. He doesn't have to. His message to Trump is blunt. When diplomacy fails, only brute nuclear force will do. Ever since the Iran war broke out, a string of high-profile North Korean weapons tests. This salvo of cruise missiles fired from Kim's flagship destroyer, the Choe-hyun. Days later, a barrage of what state media calls a dozen nuclear-capable rockets. Kim, joined by his daughter and rumored successor in training, the teenager believed to be named Kim Ju-ae. She's even getting behind the wheel of a brand new tank, with her father riding shotgun. Kim and his daughter busy flaunting their firepower. And Russia praising its anti-U.S. partnership with Pyongyang. During coverage of the Iran war, Russian state TV airing footage of North Korean troops training near the Ukrainian front, glorifying soldiers who chose suicide over capture, a clear signal Russia has North Korea's back. And back in Pyongyang, Kim is honoring families of fallen troops, doubling down on nuclear weapons, and telling his military and his people to prepare for war. There are still signs diplomacy.
Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bashimi, Awashai, Bashimi, Kakadash. You know, that was on the elders and apostles at Great Milestone. I do the well salutation to the Akim preaching the truth to the four corners of the earth and sincerity. The way that Yakal coming to you and a lesson, those will be edified through the Spirit. And what we see in here is that the other nations, they are also preparing for war. Right? The war bells never going to stop ringing right now. Because the Lord is mustering the host of the battle, as the scripture say. And I believe I'll start to that. And this is the book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verses 4. It says, let me see. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise, which is going back to the noise of war. It says, of the kingdoms of nations gathered together, the Lord of hosts mustered the host of the battle. And this what we read in here is what eventually is going to happen. You know, all these nations coming down to the valley of Yehoshaphat for war. You understand? They all getting ready because what the news broadcaster was saying that since the Iran war broke out, that North Korea been brandishing their weapons and they've been doing more testing. And now they have a clear message saying that our nuclear weapons are not up for debate. You can't tell us to get rid of it. You can't make us get rid of it. He's telling his nation to prepare for war. You understand? And we understand this. There's no peace talks. There's no peace until the Prince of Peace return. Which you know the Awashai. You understand? The King of Peace. There's no peace talks. They want to have peace talks. It's a little too late. America, a little too late for Babylon right now. All you can see right now in Babylon is pain. Right? I'm going to continue reading in this verse. Isaiah 13 and 5, it says, they come from a far country, from the end of the heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Holy, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. Yeah, and this is going to happen after the nations deal with them. They're going to come down where the Lord is going to come and finish it. Right? But for now, we're dealing with what's going on with the nations. You know, Babylon calling for help. They can't get no help. It's a nation that would help, but we gotta remember this. The MOTV isn't active where it's mandatory as yet. Right? And I believe that MOTV gonna be for a short time. If it lasts a year and something, this is me speaking as a man here. If it lasts a year for so long, that is long. Because after the MOTV, we know the scriptures say immediately after the tribulation, which is Jacob's trouble, which the MOTV will be one. Right? I believe Jacob's trouble and the MOTV gonna coincide. Right? Because they're gonna be peeing on Jacob. And then here comes the MOTV as a solution. And nobody's gonna want to take that MOTV. But according to Revelation, they're going to take it. Having nothing to eat and the economy going into a total collapse. They're gonna make them want to take it. And the thing about it is that when you look at these other nations, the Lord is putting His Spirit on them. I'm gonna precept what the Lord doing to them. I believe it's in Joel chapter 3, verse 10. I read from verse 9. It says, this is Joel 3 and 9, and it reads, proclaim me this among the Gentiles, which is the heathens. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And this is what we're seeing. All the men of war draw near, because Kim Jong-un basically saying, if you feel you're going to run upon us, we're not on that. We're not for that. They started missile testing one time. They started to brandish their weapons immediately, showing that, hey, don't fuck with us. We have weapons too. And we know how the media been portraying Kim Jong-un. That he waiting for a bomb to drop near North Korea or in the water for a reason to use them nukes. You understand? The way they've been portraying him, and he win the election 99.9, and they will say what is a dictatorship and we gotta get rid of this. Why did they run upon Russia? You understand? Why did they run up Russia has the nuclear capabilities? And initially we know it's the Lord holding back the winds, right? Because the wind is the destruction. The Lord holding back the destruction so that prophecy could happen in a line according to how the Lord wants it to happen, right? But the MOTV must come before that all-out nuclear war. Right, there's something we know. So we watching the nuclear war still, because we know it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse, Lord put in His Spirit. And this is what, let me continue reading here so I will explain what the Lord put in His Spirit on them to do exactly, right? It says, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. So these nations who were once weak, just known as food nations, cooking rice, this, that, have now become nuclear powerhouses, nations of war, where you can't really speak to them. You have to speak to them nicely, because when they bite, they're biting back. Right? All nations with rockets and nuclear weapons biting back. You understand? So what is taking place with Babylon? The Lord bringing down their pride. They were proud as fuck and hope that they could go into any other nation easily and do what they want. But doing what they want is no longer on the table. Now this time is evil, as the scriptures say. You understand? The Lord is not holding back anymore against Babylon. He's weakening them. And with the weakening comes the crashing of the dollar, strengthening of the other nations. You understand? I could even say that right here. Read verse 12 in this here, Joel 3 and 12. Right, it says, what can I read from? I read from 11. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Alright? And so let the heathen be weakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, the decision. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, trust ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Now the sickle go back to the chariot. It says for the harvest is ripe. The harvest go back to the end of the world. It's time. You understand? Come get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. It's that time. It's about that time. Come on. The wickedness is great. The Lord say, He will no more concerning their wickedness. I'm gonna precept. Second is just chapter 15 and verses 8. Let's see. I'll read from 1. The second is just 15 and 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord power. Right, so this is prophecy. These things that we speak is prophecy. America being doomed is prophecy. Kim Jong-un and all these other nations glorifying in their nuclear arsenal and being strong, as you just read. That the weak say I'm strong. All this is prophecy. Right, verse 2. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and not true. It's already written, it is in the Bible. It says, Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the infidelity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Right? So the unbelief. Don't let the unbelief and they that unbelieving and don't believe in these prophecies, don't let trouble them. Because they that's dumb and don't understand. They don't have the spirit. They don't have the Rakakodash. They don't understand. So they wouldn't have the spirit of believing. You understand? The scripture say he didn't believe, therefore he wouldn't be defended, right? So we're not dealing with them. We're dealing with the believing. Right? Verse 4, it says, For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Verse 5, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, and that is what coming. Because think about it. All nations warring. Nobody had time to go to work. Nobody had time to think no crops. Nobody had time to do nothing. It's war. So that's going to bring famine, no food. And then famine going to cause people breaking in, invading. That's going to cause death and destruction. Right? So it lines up. Verse 6. For wickedness had exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled, which is America, which is Babylon, Edomites, Esau. The wickedness had polluted the whole earth. That cancerous nation, that cancerous race. Verse 7, Therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. So the men of the Lord, that the souls of the just, the elect, always complaining and praying and sending up curses on this place. The Passover coming up real soon. And there's a time when all brethren, all brothers in GMS, right, they send up the curses together. And we know what that one shout, how powerful it is. That one shout, spoken about in the book of, I believe is Joshua Judges, where it talk about the shout that threw down the walls of Jericho. You understand? And it's that one shout that couldn't come back when it is brothers standing up the curses on the same night. How much ever brothers it have in GMS sends up the curses, right? Where the Lord, where prayers have a reaction. You're not gonna just see men praying and there's no reaction. And in curses, there's prayers as well. Right? The scripture says the Lord do hear them. Right? That they that pray, the prayers of the righteous pierceth the clouds, as the scripture also say. So we praying and sending up curses. You wanna pierce the cloud and enter into the Lord, and the Lord gonna, answer that. The Lord do hear them. Right? I reach Well, I'll stop at that. Right? Because we're dealing with America. And we're dealing with the other nations as well. To another precept that I was thinking about. Besides that, the week say I am strong. Right. I have it here in my head. I know it's only book over there. Over there, 1 and verse 7. Let me see if it any more meat. I'll read from 1. Because it's yappa. Right. I'll read from verse 2. Over there, 1 and 2. It says, Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. Amalek. Right. It says, the pride of thy heart hath deceived thee. Because firstly, these Amalekites, they are the banking families. They are the ones who run in the world literally. Right? They are Edomites. So continuing. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Who's that? The original cave dwellers. The Edomites. Right? The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. It was prideful. You understand? He was prideful when he saw the prophets. He was prideful coming up from being in that state and being Neanderthal, not having no understanding and speaking and ha he ha. You understand? Civilization came from us. And then the Lord, Job 9 and 24, the Lord gave the earth into the hand of the wicked. So they have the power on the earth, they have the knowledge, the wisdom, they have all tools needed to conquer, but they did it very wickedly. And they even hurt and damage other nations. And these nations not going out with a bang. These nations making sure and send back missiles to destroy and to disrupt. I want to hit you where it hurts. Right, so continuing. It says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, which we know the eagle also is the Americans' emblem, where you see it on their flag, and you see that they're using it for everything. They exalt themselves as the eagle, right? It says, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, the space stations, all the satellites, it says, thence will I bring thee down, thus saith the Lord. It says, right, let's see, I'll jump, because I want to get straight into the point. I'll read 6. Over that 1 and 6, it says, how are the things of Esau searched out? You understand? First of all, Salakia, let me read 5 and then go down into 7. Verse 5. It says, if thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they have not stolen till they have enough? Right? Under these Edomites, their desires as death and as hell, they never stop thieving. They're always looking for new ways to deceive the other nations, to be joined into a partnership, and all this is what causing the other nations to deceive them and to stay away from them and build on their own nation, and be powerful. So when these Americans come in, they can't touch them. Right? We're continuing here. It says, if the grape gatherers came to thee, would they have not leave some grapes? Not America. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Because that's the Lord. The Lord is the one that revealed the secret unto the prophets and the servants, the prophets. You understand? He revealed his secrets unto us. The things that Esau do and does, the Lord revealed it. Right? Verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border, which means what? They was confederate with the men. They were confederate with other nations, so that they don't get, they would not get anything with them, and they entering into deals and doing all this. And then now, just to stab them in the back and to owing them about what? They say 10 billion here, 10 billion there, till that money end up, Well, last time I checked was 38 trillion in debt. And that also is a prophecy with the scripture say they will be laden with thick clay. And that thick clay represents debt. Right? So, ain't nothing good for America. Ain't nothing good for Babylon. Right? So, I reach. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee, yeah, have deceived thee and prevail against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. And why is it like this? Because it's the Lord. The Lord demanding and orchestrating all this so that when it is you're pissed off, you make sure America pissed off all these other nations so that they have a grudge against them and they would never let go. And we know certain countries like China, they proud. You understand? The Lord called Esau most proud, but he also called China proud. Right? So you know they're proud. And it says they have laid a wound under thee. And that sounds like what? That sounds like Isaiah 14. They have laid a wound under thee. Verse 11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, which is their pride, and the noise of thy voils, the worm is spread under thee. Just like what we just read. They have laid a wound under thee, worms is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. That is how much America doomed. Because it strives against the Lord, it strives against the Lord people, and here comes the Lord now to deal with them. Right, so Lord will in this lesson knows how to find through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of greatness soon and rule well. Salutation to the Aki and preaching the truth to the four corners of the earth in sincerity. Shalom.